As we get ready to embark on our study of nuclear chemistry from home, we need to add one more piece to our model of the atom. The piece we need to add here is the neutrons. We've got a pretty good description so far of how to figure out how many protons, how to figure out how many electrons in any atom or ion, but up until now we've ignored the third subatomic particle, the neutron, because it doesn't affect the chemical behavior of the atom in any way, and we haven't needed it in order to explain any of the things we've needed to explain. I want you to look in your folder and find this paper that says Introduction to Internal Atomic Structure. It'll be a two-sided sheet. Model 1 is on the front. The second page has Model 2 and also Model 3 down at the bottom. The companion for these models is going to be a packet that you were given. It starts with question 1. It's a relatively thick packet. We're not going to do all of it today, but find those two things in your folder. If you weren't at school on our last day of school, these things are accessible in the Schoology folder for today's Digital Learning Day. You can pull them from there. If you have a printer, you might want to print them, but you don't necessarily have to. Once you've found these things, let's take a look at the models together here to get everybody going in the right direction. Model 1 is here to help us remember the subatomic particles that we do know and learn about the third subatomic particle, neutron. First thing I want to draw your attention to is the word isotope. I want you to think of isotope as just being variety. So as I read this isotopes of hydrogen, I could read it varieties of hydrogen. So this picture shows me 3 different varieties of hydrogen, and the picture below it, 3 different varieties of carbon, and down below that on your sheet you'll be able to see 3 different varieties of magnesium. We're going to take each of these pictures here and fill in the number of protons and neutrons. I'll do a couple of them for you, and then you can take it from there at home. So we need to fill in each of these little boxes by counting the number of protons and neutrons. This little thing right here is showing a zoomed in version of the nucleus, which is right here. Here's your fuzzy electron cloud, and these little negative signs out in the cloud are representing the electrons. For Model 1, the electrons aren't that important, so you'll notice there's not really a place to put those. So as I looked at the zoomed in picture of the nucleus here, what I can see is that there's 1 proton in the nucleus and there are no neutrons. This thing has the symbol 1,1 hydrogen and the name hydrogen 1. Scientists sometimes use the name protium, but we're not going to worry about that. We're going to use the very simple system of calling them hydrogen 1, hydrogen 2, and hydrogen 3. If we look at the one below that, this is carbon 12, and if I were to count the number of protons in the nucleus, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the empty ones are neutrons, I'll count those as well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. When this video is over, you need to go back and fill in the proton and neutron count for all of these. One of the key things that we're going to be focused on in this particular activity is learning to interpret what's called an AZX symbol. The X is something you're already familiar with. This is the element symbol from your periodic table. And for doing normal chemistry, that's enough to get us where we want to go. In order to study nuclear chemistry, however, we need to know which variety of each element we're talking about, and that's where the A and the Z come in. They tell us which isotope or which variety of a particular element we're talking about. So if we look at our AZX symbols for hydrogen, you can see that we have something up here in the A and something down here in the Z position. The purpose of this activity, or one of the purposes of this activity, is to have you discover what's the significance of A, what's the significance of Z, and how do knowing the values of A and Z tell you about the number of protons and the number of neutrons that are present in an atom. Model number 1 is going to go with questions 1 through 13. So what you're going to do is you're going to take model number 1 and you're going to set it right next to this sheet, and you're going to use model number 1 to answer questions 1 through 13. When you get through question number 13, you're going to notice that your packet says, look at model number 2. Until you get to that point, you don't need model 2, and so you can just leave your paper on the side that says model 1. When you get to question 14 and it says to look at model 2, you're going to flip your paper over and you're going to find model number 2. Model number 2 involves both atoms and ions, and it's important to keep track of which one you're talking about. So we're going to go through and we're going to highlight here the word atom, one color, and the word ion, a different color, so that when you're looking at your models, you remember that one of the key things about this model is the difference between an atom and an ion. Now these models are a whole lot smaller than the models you had before, and you understand the notion of counting protons, neutrons, and electrons from the picture, and so the numbers have actually been filled in here by us doing the counting for you. So in this first one, the number of protons is 3, 1, 2, 3, they're the little dark specks. Neutrons is 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. They're the little pale specks. And if you look out here in the electron cloud, there's 1, 2, 3 electrons. Jumping over to the other side, for the ion of lithium, you'll notice that the nucleus has remained exactly the same with 3 protons and 4 neutrons, but now there are only 2 electrons in that electron cloud instead of 3 electrons in that electron cloud. Model number 2 is going to get you questions 14 through 18. For today, you're going to stop when you get to question 18 because that's as far as we need to go at this moment in time. At the bottom of this page is also a model number 3. Model number 3 we might use later, we might not, kind of depending on how things play out here in the next little bit of time. It's there in case we need it. We'll let you know if you need to come back to that. So, according to today's plan, your task is to work through either by yourself or with your group. If you decide to work alone, I do want you to touch base and check in with your group, and that's one of the things to do is to check in with your group, have some kind of a digital meeting and sort of talk through the answers to these. And then there's a follow-up PhET simulation that's got 3 games, actually I think it's 4 games, built in that will let you test your knowledge of what you've learned today. And then when you're done, you are going to take a picture of your score for the 4 different games and submit that to your digital learning portfolio as evidence of what you've accomplished. Feel free to shoot your instructor an email if you have any questions, or check in with your group mates, as they will probably be able to help you out as well. Have a great digital day. Bye-bye.